Hey, you. Welcome back to Deal Therapy and welcome to season 8. It is spring of 2024, which, in my opinion, is the real new year. Now, we have had tons of things going down so far, both in the Dollar Tree community, in the world in general, and just probably in our personal lives. You know, I know that just because I know, if you know, you know. So, I do have a lot of things to get off my chest before we get into this haul. I do have a haul for you today, and I am all caught up. I am not behind at all, but I do have to take a second to address some things. So, if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I have created a tab, a highlights tab called Story Time. Now, I'm not going to be editing any of this part. We'll probably edit the actual haul itself, but we're going to have a story time right now. That's why I have my um, receipts here. So, on the 1st, April Fool's, which in retrospect, I should have expected some of the shenanigans, but I take my lunch hour that day to go and return some items. Now, if you guys are aware in the Dollar Tree community that we are going up to $7, which in and of itself is not so much of the issue. The issue is that we are constantly getting increases, and we need to see sort of the ethics and the operations, in my opinion, of the store match this higher price point that you want to uphold, because we don't want a beer bottle sentiment as far as customer service goes, and we're spending our champagne money. You understand what I'm saying? So I call before I come because let me just give you some background. I am an anxious girly. I don't do too much returns because I don't like the hassle. I am a female black in Florida. Okay. If you know what that means, you know what that means. I don't do too much, you know, exchanges, returns, because if I bought it in the first place, I bought it. If it's from Dollar Tree and it doesn't work, typically I would just throw it out, count it as a loss. But because we are trying to uphold this sort of more elite products and price point together, I said, let me return some of the items because the prices are going up. I don't want to waste money, and I'm going to give it back to Dollar Tree anyway, right? Because we're always there. Obviously, I'm a content creator. I'm also a shareholder. I don't play around about Dollar Tree. When I tell you this is my favorite store, I mean that from the crux of my soul. Understand? Now, it is a corporation, right? So there are things that are not going to necessarily be in alignment with the everyday layman's person. And I do understand some of that, especially, being of my demographic. There are just certain things that they're not going to cater to or recognize. And you kind of have to, take that for what it is. That being said, I called on Monday morning a store that I intended to return night items to. Now, this story is on Instagram, by the way, again. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and check that out on my Instagram. But I wanted to flesh out the story a little bit more here. So I call around 10 something. I go in around 12:30. Soon as I get in, I'm like, oh, I called. Can I leave this bag here? Because I didn't want to walk around with the returned items in my bag in case they were still on the shelf and then have someone think that I was shoplifting. So I wanted to leave the bag at the cash register. And immediately, whoever this blonde person with a bun in her hair was at this store was like attitudinal. And I'm like, well, I was like, oh, well, I just called because I was like, maybe she doesn't understand that. I just called to say that I wanted to return some of these items. I just want to leave them with you so that they're safe. And she kind of like grunted and didn't even like really respond or interact, which I was like, okay, we're already starting that, but we'll move on. And so then later, as I'm going shopping, I'm like, let me go back and get it and just like carry it because at least the cameras are here. They can see I came in with it. It's not going to be a problem. So, anyway, long story short, I get the shop for the items that I'm going to absorb, the exchange with. And the cashier, now another cashier, it wasn't the same person that I had spoken to when I first came into the store, I believe her name was Brittany, at least that's what was on the receipt. Now, that person that initially was at that cash register could have been that person and just didn't sign out and like re-log in to make that other person's name appear on the receipt. So I'm not exactly sure. But there was another lady that was extremely helpful and nice, but she stops me and says, well, you can't exchange for food or chemicals. I'm like, well, that's strange because I just called and they said that I can return any item that was unopened with the receipt. I have all my receipts here, and I'm just going to show you all my receipts. Um, I usually will take them and highlight, as you can see here, the items that I'm returning. So if I'll just let you know what I was returning: two Hot Wheels because I had dupes of those, and I buy Hot Wheels all the time. Sometimes I can't remember, as you know. I collect them. If you've been here for a while, if you knew, I collect Hot Wheels. So if I have a dupe, I'll either give them away or I will return them. Very rarely do I return anything, right? The two Cantu shampoos I wanted to return, the two Hey Humans lotions because I had extras of those and didn't care too much for the lavender vanilla. And I bought 4 glass files for whatever reason, and I returned 2 of those. So all of these here I've actually highlighted so as not to create a line and as not to confuse anybody and have them have to review my receipt and waste their time when you can see right here exactly what I'm returning and when and what store I got it from, etc. So I said, well, no one told me about this caveat. I did call in to be sure before I came. Can I speak to a manager? So she calls the manager. The manager apparently is the first lady who was at the cash register that gave me an attitude when I asked her to hold the bag that had the items that I was returning it in. So I said, well, I literally called in before. No one said anything about this. Is there? So she calls another manager. So apparently that wasn't the manager. So I don't know if she was an assistant or what. So this lady, who I later find out is Tina, comes out and explains to me how they are not able to return chemical or food items for anything else. So now I'm confused. Is it that I can't return chemical or food items, or I can't exchange any items for chemical or food? We sat there for about 5 to 6 minutes trying to figure that out. Neither of them seemed to have a handle or a real understanding of what they were talking about. That's not Dollar Tree's policy. The reason that this rant is happening right now is because I want you all to know I love this store, right? I want you all to know you can absolutely return items with the original receipt, and you can actually return them without the original receipt according to the website, but you can't get a refund without the original receipt. I wasn't even interested in a refund. I didn't know they did refunds. So I didn't know any of this until I'm experiencing this, right? So I'm sitting here going back and forth with the assistant manager, the manager. The cashier is looking mortified because she's got a queue forming now. I'm mortified because, again, I don't do any of this, and it's probably for this reason. But that shouldn't stop me from taking advantage of a store refund policy. Um, and I'm well within my rights, well within, all of the requirements. And she's like, well, she's giving me all of this attitude. Now, I'm from Brooklyn, New York, right? We could do an attitude if you really want to, but I'm not that girl that wants to go out in public and cause a ruckus, like at all. So I'm trying to alleviate the situation and de-escalate it as much as possible. And I am breaking out in a sweat. I am completely nervous and mortified and just super annoyed because this was the reason that I called beforehand, right? So none of this had to take place. She eventually says that she's doing me a favor by accepting them. But then she wouldn't accept one of the items that I wanted to return was the Lazy Susan that we got from that Bed Bath and Beyond closeout, because when I got home I realized it was broken. Stickers were still on, everything was still on, but it was clearly broken. She tells me I have to go to the original store to return that one because they don't take broken items. Again, this is a caveat that is nowhere on the website. Nowhere did the person who I spoke to before I came there 2 hours prior, they did not explain this either. So I am extremely frustrated, but now I just want to leave the store. So I return my items. She takes the returns for what they were. I think I got like aluminum foil sheets, waters, and like 8 Comet, the powder Comet. So I'm like, so I can't return them for them, or I can't return chemical or food for anything else. Still to this very second, I have no idea because they were not clear in relaying any of that information during this exchange inside of the store. So at the end of the day, excuse me, around 7 o'clock, I realized I want to make a store complaint online and I want to let you all know about the situation, but I don't know the manager's name. So I call and I say, oh, hey, I just came in earlier today. I'm wondering the store manager's name. She stays quiet. Whoever picked up the phone, I don't know who this person is, but she stays quiet the entire time, like for a good 15 seconds. And she's like, what do you need that name for? Jesus, help me. We now go back and forth, and I'm like, well, if I were in the store, I would be able to ascertain the manager's name with no problem. I'm calling because I'd had an issue. I want to clarify the store policy, and I need the name in order to make a reference. So she goes off the phone, like, you know how you turn your head away and talk to somebody else, and she goes, she wants to make a reference. So I'm like, oh my God, what is the problem? Then I said, is that possible? Is that something you can help me with? She hangs up the phone. She hangs up the phone. She hangs up on me. So I call back and I say, I just called. At this point, I am exercising the patience of Job. Okay, this is biblical portions of patience. You understand? I've already just went through this back and forth. I then had to go to another store on my lunch break to return something I should have been able to return at the same store. I'm going through all of this with stride. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to practice patience. I know it's April's Fools. I know it's Mercury retrograde. There's a lot going on. Trying to be understanding. Hanging up on me is not okay. So I'll call back and I say, did you just hang up on me? She before I can get that sentence out of my mouth, she starts to be irate. Well, I don't know why you're calling for a manager's name. Like I didn't have anything to do. I'm just trying to fill in and this, that, and the third. And I don't know who this person is. I said, my God. I literally had to say, my God. I said, all I'm asking for is the manager's name that I could get in the store. I had an incident today and I'm trying to clarify and I need that. Her name is Tina. Okay. Her name is Tina. So Tina and whomever answered the phone at about 7:30 on Monday at store 1853, egregious and ridiculous. Now, mind you, I could hardly shop for any of the things that I needed to absorb the exchange with because the store was in complete disarray, in shambles, looking a absolute mess. Now, I realized this was the day after Easter, but I'm going to need you to pick a struggle. You can't be a raggedy store, have raggedy customer service, and not know your refund policy. That's the end of my rant. A 12 and a half minute rant to say, this is my favorite store. Please don't ruin my experience. It's not okay. The bottom line is you can return any unopened item. Um, and if you got it on dollartree.com, they don't really do exchanges. But if your items were broken or damaged, then you can call a customer service number and they will help you with that. Basically, you're really doing damage to the Dollar Tree brand by not understanding your own store policy, which is why I had to pursue this. I did put it on Instagram. Of course, Dollar Tree did not respond. It's interesting because sometimes they do. When they have an issue, if somebody says something in the comments, they say, oh, DM us. But I've DM'd them twice now, during my time as a content creator, a specifically Dollar Tree content creator, and have never received a response. So that's interesting to me. Anyway, this is definitely going to be on my radar as the prices increase because what's going to happen now is I'm no longer going to take a chance on a chemical or a food product, which is kind of how everyone at Dollar Tree who's a avid Dollar Tree shopper shops. You want to try these things out for $1.25 because it's sort of low stakes. And so you can try things. And if you don't like them, if you bought multiples, because you wanted to secure the bag and you wanted to return those multiples that you didn't turn out to like, that's going to deter people now. So I had to have a whole what am I doing? Is this the store for me? What's happening here? I really had to have a come to Jesus moment. And it didn't even have to go this way because the other 3 stores that I visited that same day, I visited 4 stores total that day. They all were like, no, we've never heard of that policy. Or no, you can return anything. I think one store said, sometimes they don't accept seasonal items returned, but if they're unopened and they have a receipt, I don't see why that would be a problem either. Again, this is not fleshed out on the website. So it's crazy. I think I'm already at 15 minutes. I'm going to make this a separate video. I'm going to just call this a rant, sort of like a bonus. And then right after this, we will get into this haul. But guys, please retain your receipts. Make sure you're watching out for what you pick up. Check expiration dates, because if they're going to give pushback on returning chemicals and food items when typically those are the items that you would have an issue with or realize that you don't like or you can't have in your home, or it's like it breaks you out of something, we're going to think twice before picking up and trying products that we hadn't seen before, that we don't know and trust, right? So, something to think about. Let me know your experiences below. Have you had any issues with returning items? Has your store offered refunds? I know sometimes at the bottom it says we will gladly exchange any items. I don't think they've been doing that for 2024, but I know they're on some of my older receipts. So yeah, let me know the tea on this. And I just had to let y'all know what I had experienced, because again, I mean, I'm invested in more ways than one in Dollar Tree, and I did not appreciate that experience whatsoever. So I hope you're being safe out there. You're finding the things that you're wanting to find. You're getting your wish list items, and you're just overall enjoying the Dollar Tree experience, as we all do and have been for many years. And I hope that this price increase doesn't come with a bunch of unfair bureaucracy and red tape and just have it be a hassle for the shoppers, because that's not going to be as fun, right? We love this experience. Please don't ruin it, workers, and know your policy. All right, I'll see you just in a second with an actual haul later.